So we're back on stages of development.
Yes, part 2, I think.
Part 2, stage 2. Yeah, we rehearsed that one. So stage 2.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're into the stage of, right, we're getting not revenue. We're getting
Product market fit.
We've gone through product market fit.
Well, we're
Right. Stage 1 is product market fit.
right.
So stage 2 is raising capital.
Not necessarily.
No, I was going to do a list of things,
Yeah.
but if you want to keep cutting me off, that's cool too. Right, raising capital, right? Money's coming in because we've sold either the idea of the thing, right, to bring in money, or we're actually starting to sell the product.
Right. Yep.
So, right, if we're trying to figure out where we are, how do we know that we're in stage 2?
It's really around, the big idea behind the stages of development model is really more around organizational structure than it is the business model. So I think that's an important part that we really haven't spent much time on, right? So the big idea between stages is every single time you're not just adding a level of complexity, but you're adding, you're taking the business and making it capable of seeing further and further out into the future, and then driving, confidently driving towards that future. So stage 1, right, it's all about product market fit. It's all about everybody's focused on stuff like week to week, month to month. You're not really spending a lot of time working where we're going to be in 6 months, where we're going to be in 12 months. You have perspectives on it, but that's not like where the founders, the senior leadership team's energy is going. It's just everybody's trying to prove that we have something worth putting additional resources into. Time, ours, or money, ours or someone else's. So at stage 2 now, we've gotten to the point where we can bring in people to help us do sort of that day-to-day, week-to-week work, right? Whether it's, let's just say it's a lawn care company, whether it's mowing lawns, right? And we can also then, as a leader, right, we can focus on our marketing campaigns and figuring out, the territories we want to go to, banging on doors and doing other things that are a little more long-term oriented. Does that make sense? So we've moved our time span to the focus, the leadership focus, the founder's focus out to the 3 months to 12 months time frame. And in order to do that, we've hired people now who work for us. And depending upon the nature of the business, right, they could all just be engineers, or you could have a product person and an engineer. If it's a lawn care company, there's a person who is basically mowing the lawns or doing the lawn care work. And so you've got a couple layers of hierarchies of competency in stage 2. You're still running around improvising goals. You're still pivoting to some extent, whether it's maybe on your marketing position or the product's pivoting. There's a lot of, I don't want to say chaos, but there's a lot of flux in the business model at this point.
Very fluid.
It's very fluid. Well put, right? And in terms of, how many people are at each stratum of the organization or layer of work, right? You could have anywhere from a couple people sort of working on the leadership side of the business. Maybe you have someone who's overseeing marketing, and maybe you have someone who's overseeing operations. And so you could have 2 or 3 layers of competency within the organization. But for all practical purposes, the really big thing is we're not worrying about a year from now or 2 years from now or 5 years from now, right? So the structure is it's fluid, but it's being defined, right? So we know enough about the work we're doing. We know enough about the market that we can have people dedicated to marketing. Obviously, we understand we should be doing invoicing. If that's a company that's making revenue, right, we're probably going to have that person. If we're not making revenue yet, right, we still have people
managing the money,
and making sure payroll is being met and things like that. So you still have someone who's doing accounting work and managing cash, right? And then, you may be wearing multiple hats. You may be overseeing, marketing and engineering as an example, and product, right? And so you're wearing all these different hats that are basically level 2 hats, and everybody else is just, is just working on getting work done. And then the founder, the core centers of excellence is still going to be predominantly the founder's areas of expertise, right? So if you're an engineer, right, it's going to be an engineer-centric organization at that particular point. If you're a product person, it's going to be a product-centric person at that moment. If you go back to the landscaping company, right, you're still going to be the guy who goes out and makes sure that everything's been done well, customers are happy, et cetera. So as I said earlier, in terms of layers, 2 to 3 layers of complexity or competency. Obviously, the founder or the co-founders are all still critical. The business can't be sold at that particular point in time, and it's not a business that's for the most part, it's not something you can go sell, and it's not probably at this point in time something that you can raise a lot of capital for. It would be sort of a seed stage business, maybe. If it's a manufacturing or distribution, more traditional company, it's probably, it's not going to be easy to raise money. Maybe friends and family. So angel, seed stage kind of thing. And the goal here is now to sustain work that makes you feel like you've got something. So sustain. If it's a revenue generating company, it's to sustain customers and to sustain cash flow. If you're proving out an idea and yet to bring on revenues, it's to sustain the development of that product in such a way that you remain confident that someone's going to ultimately want to pay for that product and or service.
So if we're moving from stage 1 to stage 2, right, what things are going to change? What dynamics are going to change? What challenges are you going to face?
Yeah, well, people. There's more people. You're starting to divide and conquer. So you got marketing people or product people or engineering people. So you just got, you're beginning to have that communication complexity. Maybe you have 5 people, maybe you have 10 people, right? But now you got to make sure, everybody's communicating reasonably well. So you probably are moving to actually having formal meetings, as an example, right? Maybe there's a weekly meeting, maybe there's daily huddles. You're literally starting to bring structure into the business. You could indeed even start having 90-day, you could start having 90-day goals. Probably not, right? You probably don't hit that until stage 3, but at least at that point, you're aligning around and you're moving from everything being implicit and just everybody's trying to do everything to getting a little more structure in terms, as I said, in terms of who's accountable for things, who's responsible for things, structure in terms of how you communicate, structure in how you're meeting, structure in terms of how you're going to organize information. Like back to, there's 5 levels of business operating systems. At this point in time, you may start to feel the pressure to move to an intentional operating system. That doesn't mean that you're going out and getting a fully blown operating system like 90OS or EOS or scaling up or whatever it is you do. But it means, hey guys, let's all use Google or let's all use Teams, right? So you're starting to be intentional about how you organize your information.
So if we're looking at the 9 core competencies, which are sort of essential in stage 2 and which are you starting to get into?
Well, I believe you should start working on the vision thing in stage 1, right? That should be part of it. So hopefully some of the vision stuff is getting clearer and clearer in stage 2, right? Maybe we're getting clearer on what our product is. Maybe we're getting clearer on what our ICP is. Maybe we're getting clearer on what our compelling value proposition is, right? And I would like to believe that we're getting a little bit clearer on in terms of our core values, right? We're starting to hire people. So let's, so let's start thinking about that a little bit, because ultimately, no one wants to, if you hire someone who doesn't work out, it's not good for you or for them, right? So let's not go hire people who just aren't going to be great cultural fits. So I would start focusing on that stuff personally. Like I said, I would love to have people thinking about their core values even in stage 1. Stage 2, you're starting to use them and you're testing the language, right? just like, went from tribe to G tribe, right? So you're testing the language. You're saying, okay, so what's missing? What am I not really talking about when I'm talking with people about what our culture is all about? So that's the vision stuff. Structure wise, I think you're starting to, you don't have to necessarily document it, but there's no reason not to if you have some, if you can, so who's accountable for what, do a little bit of structuring using, an org chart, right? So that's another core competency. I would like you back to, meetings. We've talked about that. I think you need to start having some more formal meetings. Informal meetings tend to end up with people getting frustrated because they seem to they wander, they meander. People are like, why the hell are we doing this? Right? They're not structured in a way where we're going in crisp, clear agenda. We're focused really on problem solving or moving the boat forward. And so I believe you'll start to feel pressure to start working on that meetings competency. As an example, back to enterprise value and exit, you're not worrying about succession planning and all that, but you should start getting a sense for how the economic model, the business model of the company, right? Starting to have a sense for ultimately where this will go, maybe financial modeling, projections, what are the implications, what are the next hires? So that's a thing that I think you'll start to work on in stage 2. Is there a particular core competency you think we should talk about besides those?
No, I think like structures.
Process, as I've said earlier, I don't think you need to be worrying about process at all at this moment in time. I mean, you can talk about it, but don't over-invest in documenting process.
There's going to be people that outline their own processes because they feel the need to do that. And that's what's going to be happening. It's not going to be a
hiring process as an example. I think that would be a good one to actually,
a nice mix
document.
Right. Crossovers between people and process on that.
Yeah.
Because you are figuring out what kind of culture you're forming.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have a good idea about that.
Yeah.
But then, with anything, it's going to evolve over time because you're actually figuring things out through experience.
Yep.
I think it's interesting to look through the lens of the core competencies when going through the stages.
Yeah.
Right. Figure out what to do where, like the vision thing is, we'll eventually have another framework around this, but the vision, like what parts of it to work on when.
Yeah.
Right. Because some things will be more concrete, some things will be more fluid.
Yeah.
Right? Like your unique value proposition, your ICP.
Yeah.
Right. Early stages, that's going to be evolving and shifting a lot.
Yeah. It's like, do you spend much money on your 3-year picture and your 1-year goals at this particular moment in time? Probably not, right? You might, if you're out there fundraising, you're going to have to do that to some extent. So once again, it really depends. Like there's no single right answer for each of the 9 core competencies in terms of when you should really be leaning into mastering it. But I do think that vision is sooner rather than later, getting a little bit lined on the people sooner rather than later, incorporating meetings sooner rather than later, getting to work on the org chart and structure sooner rather than later. Data at this moment in time, it's really going to depend, right?
But depends what you're doing.
Depends on what you're doing. Depends on your business model, right? But probably not super high priority for most people. You're going to have an intuitive sense for how things are going.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the lawn care versus open AI thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like that big difference on the data side of things.
Yeah.
But also if you're going to, if you think you're going to get to stage 5 without having a vision done, good luck with that.
Yeah.
There's a range of things, but it's right. It's not black and white. It's not just purely explicit on that.
Yeah.
So then now we're into stage 2. And I guess I'll preface the question with another question. When it comes to coaching, what are the earlier stages that you find yourself getting into a coaching role for an organization?
It really depends on like how clear everything is, right? So, I have a client that I started coaching in 2020 that literally had a vision and a plan, no revenue, no operations, right? And but they were very clear on what they were going to do, right? They knew obviously they knew what they were selling. They knew who they were going to be selling it to. They had raised capital to go out and buy the equipment they needed to be in the business they were in, they were going into. And so they were really clear on, sort of the core business in terms of customers and value proposition, even very clear on their purpose, passion, just cause. I mean, they really were like, this is who we are. This is where we're going. Got people to invest in them, right? So in theory, they were stage one, and I was coaching them. Today, they're over 120 million in revenue. Very, very strong operation margins. They're running 24/7. I mean, it's a really, really well run company. Of course, they don't think it's as well run as I think it is. It's like all of us, right? But that's a great example of where a coach at that moment in time, they thought it was, made a heck of a lot of sense. And, and being as objective as I possibly can about it, I think I was really helpful for them because I enabled them to take a relatively well-defined business plan and then structure it and present it so that they could go out and attract and retain really talented people, so that they did not have a lot of mishires, so that they were pretty good at figuring out, okay, here's the first step, here's the second step, here's the third step from a structural perspective, from a hiring perspective, from a planning perspective. And, before we ever had a dollar revenue, we had a fully blown out, 3-year plan, 1-year goals, 90-day rocks, capital raised. So that's an example where I think the coaching was very helpful for them.
So, right, having gone through that journey from stage one, what do you think the key milestones or the key achievements were from getting through stage two, right? Stage one to stage three, basically.
Yeah. So for them, obviously getting the plant up and running, getting the sales in, getting all the materials they needed to go out and start bringing customers in, right? The sales presentation decks, this is who we are, this is how we're doing things. I even got them probably within the first or second quarter of operations. We had a who we are, so like our on 90 or about 90 guide. We got one of those. So just for going out and recruiting people, they had a really solid tool. This is who we are and this is where we're going. For them, stage two was pretty darn fast. And it was really, sort of all about getting ready to start hiring a lot of people.
And we kind of alluded to this in the last episode, but having a lot of prior business experience, right, that sets you up to move through those earlier stages
very swiftly.
Yeah, right? Because you know what to expect in each one.
Yeah,
right. Just following the playbook.
Yeah,
it's like when you, I guess, right, you're playing a video game and you're redoing it. You already ran through the earlier levels.
Yeah,
and it's like it's different, but you kind of know what to expect.
Yeah. If you've been around in the business world for a while, you learn just as much from your bad bosses as your good bosses. You may even learn more from your bad bosses because you're like, I don't want to be that guy or gal, right? I don't want to make that mistake. And so, this is their third company, right? So, they were, right, just, hindsight is just like, wow.
Yeah.
Super impressive.
Third company, meaning like company, not third time trying to do something.
Right.
There's a difference there.
Yeah. Not their third time failing.
Yeah.
Right. Or they literally
third attempt.
Well, no,
I'm saying not their third attempt.
Not
right?
their
third time failing. That's not right.
Yeah. So so the founder had actually, I could get this wrong. I know he built one company and sold it. May have built one company and sold it, and then done something else with the second company, but it was definitely his third or so company.
Is the third success, basically, right? Where it's like a successful exit.
For sure, this will be at least his second, if not his third successful exit.
So you've gone through it, right? Some wins under your belt, kind of thing. So
and all that experience,
yeah, and that's huge.
Yeah,
right? But I'm sure there's also a lot of failures in there that you learn from. So if you're someone out there, right, stage 2, struggling, or feeling a little bit of a struggle at the moment, what would you say to that person, right? About, okay, you're in this moment right now, but regarding the future, regarding the moment you're in, making the most of that, and then, right, how that plays out in the future.
I think commercial confidence is huge, obviously, right? So, when you're in stage 2, if it's all a confidence game, right? What you want to be doing is progressing your confidence, and by that I mean you're becoming more and more confident that this makes sense, right? I can attract and retain people. I can attract and retain customers. I can attract and retain ideal stakeholders, and so it's all about that sort of having that level of progress that gives you confidence that you can take that next step. That you should take that next step and do it with confidence. And so, if you're struggling around confidence, what is it, right? Is it product market fit? Is it my business model in terms of I'll actually be able to make money and attract capital? Is it my ability to go out and get customers? Where am I lacking confidence at this moment in time? Right?
Yeah, where are you lacking the evidence to have that confidence?
Exactly. Well put.
So, right, if we're doing that internal check of, am I like not confident because this personality thing, right? I just have confidence in myself.
Right.
Wherever that comes from.
Confidence in my team. Right.
And those, how, for someone trying to take a step back and assess objectively if they have that evidence, right, to move on to the next step, right, and to push forward,
right,
or dig deeper. If you're bootstrapping it, for example, it's like, all right, do I invest? Where do I put all my chips in, right?
Right.
What are those KPIs? Isn't the right word, right?
Right.
But what are those things? What are those pieces of evidence that you need, generally speaking, to have that confidence to move forward?
Yeah. So it could be confidence in just that people want to buy what you're selling at a reasonable price, right? Could be that. It could be I'm lacking confidence that I have the right people around me to be able to consistently produce the product and get it into the marketplace. It could be I'm lacking confidence in my ability to position the product in the marketplace, right, to sell or to market it, right? So, it could be that I'm lacking confidence that I can sustain this financially or emotionally or physically, right? So I think you got to stand back and look at like the 9 core competencies, and in particular, as I always go back to, if you don't have confidence in your vision and the basic economic and the business model, right, then what is it, right? Is it you don't have the ICPs, you don't have the positioning right, if you don't know how to produce it in an economical manner that ultimately will create enterprise value? Is it that you just lack, you lack the yin to your yang, right? In terms of the team that's around you, right? You haven't gotten it to the place where, where you have the right leadership team, the right, a lot of times it's just that other person or a couple other people who make up for the things that you're not great at. So really understanding through the lens of, what we teach, where is it that I'm weak, right? Average players want to be left alone. Good players want to coach. Great players want to know the truth. What is it that I'm not great at, and can I go out and get that? And what do I need to do out and get that? Do I need to be able to tell my story better, right? Do I need to be able to prove product market fit? What do I need in order to get that? So I would look at the things that are essential to build a great company at this particular stage in time and say, hey, where am I insecure? If I'm struggling.
And you want to know the truth.
And you want to know the truth. And it could be that you just need to talk to someone and say, hey, like a coach, and say, hey, this is where I am. This is what I'm struggling with. Can you give me an objective perspective about the moment I'm in?
And how useful of a corrective do you think the coach serves in that position, right? Because you have people on either side where you're really hard on yourself and it's like you're doing really fine, or you're like, I want to just go, I want to get after it.
Yeah.
Right? On that probably the younger crowd.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, no, we got to slow down. We got to make sure that our structure, our vision, everything is sound before we advance.
It depends on there are coaches and there are coaches. Let's be honest about it all, right? And so, if you can go find someone who's been where you are, right, and has a general understanding for, what it takes to get from stage 2 to stage 3, right? Just a general understanding, and can ask honest questions, and you're willing to honestly answer them, right? Then I think that's and there are lots of us, I'll use that term, who we want to help people, right? So if you're a bit stuck at this moment in time, go find someone maybe who's a coach, or go find someone who's done what you're doing, or network your way into one of those people, and just say, hey, look, this is where we are. I'm a bit stuck. Can you help me sort of, you can't read the label from inside the jar. Can you help me understand where I am? And it could be, the issue could be, it could be that you got, you just need people that you don't have right now because this is what you're great at and this is what you're not great at. Or it could be that, I don't know if this is such a good idea, right? Because it's a small market and you're up against a bunch of people who are really, really strong, and you don't have a differentiator, right? You don't have a point of view that makes you stand out enough to go get attracted. So someone's going to have to help you understand, right, a little bit better, because you're stuck for a reason. You don't see it, and so
you're not going to think your way out of a thinking problem.
No, it's just like, as someone who's done this too often, you're sitting there at 3 a.m. and you're thinking about stuff that you're not going to solve. All you're doing is ruminating over stuff that's going to be there tomorrow, and you're not developing any thoughts. You're just, you're just sitting there thinking about things that you can't change.
Yeah. And if you get someone in that can tell you how to act and what to do, right, you can act your way out of a thinking problem.
Right.
And then, then you can get yourself out of that state, right? That's stuck.
Yeah.
All right. So, you have anything else you want to add?
No, just other than, I think, look, starting, building, running, and scaling a company is really hard. It's impossible not to experience the ups and downs, right? And there are a lot of people out there that want to help people that are trying to do good work and have a decent idea. If you're not trying to do good work and you don't have a decent idea, I'm not a magician. I can't help you, right? But if you have a decent idea, right, and you're trying to do good work and you have some of the important competencies that are necessary in order to turn that idea into reality, there's help out there. So, take advantage of that. Don't be shy. Good average players want to left alone. Good players want to coach. Great players want to know the truth. So get someone to help you see what's going on.
Yep. All right. And we will link to the guide.
Yes.
Brief.
Yep.
All of that stuff.
Yep.
In the description below.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.